Hello, it's another silver alert from the AARPGs from GenCon Day 3. Like that, huh?
Yes.
Because we have no, we don't care. But so we're having fun. This is our first time talking to Paizo. We've got Luis Loza with us.
Hi there.
You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Luis Loza. I am creative director for Pathfinder on the rules and lore side of things. I'm in charge of the rule books and our setting books over at Paizo.
It's awesome. So great to have you.
Yeah,
this
thanks
is,
so much.
Exciting to be able to talk to. I think a lot of people have heard of Paizo before, but just in case, they did have Pathfinder, Starfinder.
Yes.
So how long have you been with Paizo?
For 5 years.
5 years.
Yeah.
And where did you come from before that?
Originally, I was a freelancer working for Paizo. I was writing Pathfinder material myself. Okay. Eventually got Paizo's attention, and they let me write for them and learn the game and their writing style and their formatting, everything through that. Eventually, there was a position open as a developer, and I was there till about a year ago when I got the promotion to creative director.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the dream for a lot of people. There's a lot of people that are writing content on itch and drive through, and they're churning out great stuff, and they're just waiting for their opportunity to show what they can do. So how long were you doing that before you got the opportunity?
Oh, I was doing freelance work for about 4 years before I got that chance to apply for the developer position.
So before you got the position, what's the product that you worked on that you're most proud of?
Most proud of, I would say there's a lot of player options that I put out. We worked on player companions, as they were called back in the first edition Pathfinder days. And there was one particular one called Psychic Anthology. It was dealing with all of the occult classes for Pathfinder.
Okay.
And I was creating really weird and interesting stuff in that book. And there's a particular rules option that let you basically summon a ghost blade that came to life and helped you fight and stuff that I think a lot of people liked. And it was just a really fun design challenge that came with that.
Yeah, I find, I do a lot of the sound work for our podcast. I find, the weirder stuff is the most fun to work
definitely.
on. So that's pretty cool. So when you're working on the lore part for Pathfinder 2, what kind of inspirations do you draw from?
We have inspirations all over the place. If you check out our setting, the Lost Omen setting, it's a big kitchen sink.
Yeah.
Right? There's a nation that kind of covers your basic fantasy. There's more horror. There's more, Age of Sail, high seas kind of stuff. There's kind of stuff all over the place. So anything that feels like a good place for an adventure, or might have been a setting or part of a setting from older games or older material that you think was exciting, we tend to have something like that. Paizo is made up of a lot of gamers with a lot of experience who, they draw, hey, I grew up on Ravenloft. I think that's great. Let's put in something like that. Or I grew up on Greyhawk. Let's do that classic stuff. So there's all that kind of stuff. And then personally, I am drawing inspiration from all over the place. It turns out that a good idea for a monster can come from the most unlikely places, right? You'll watch TVs, you'll watch movies, and it doesn't all have to be fantasy related.
Yeah.
Something like a heist adventure. You watch Ocean's 11, and suddenly you're like, okay, now let's add some magic, and what do we got going, right?
Some goblins.
Yeah. It's very, so there's inspiration all over the places, and we have a lot of authors. We don't write all of our material in-house. We work with freelancers and other authors outside of the company, and they're bringing in their inspirations, their background, their history. So what ends up happening is basically what excites everyone the most ends up being brought in here. And if you have just only the exciting parts of what everyone likes, you end up with a really exciting world and really interesting world.
So Paizo's really exploded, I think, and just keeps getting bigger and producing more and more products, not just the rule books, but maps and
board games and
and board games. So on top of that, I'm gonna step out and take a little different direction.
Sure.
One of the bigger kind of controversies this year was the whole license thing, and so I think personally, Paizo took the right move with the org license, and because we've worked a lot with some of the folks that were with Mork Borg, and they have a pretty generous third license.
Yeah.
And so seeing that, Big Paizo is doing that also, I think it's great because there's so many creative people out there that you're giving this opportunity for them to, really shine and kind of use what you built and letting them take it to their playground. So what are your thoughts on?
Yeah, Paizo was built on open gaming, right? Pathfinder was born of the idea that we'd like to continue the 3.5 tradition and maintain our adventures that were built on those rule sets and have that available for people. The open gaming license let us do that, and we want to continue that tradition with the Orc license and make sure that whether it's for Pathfinder or some other game that is released under the Orc, we want people to be sharing these games. A lot of people who get into Pathfinder, who get into Starfinder, do so by finding the free version of the rules that are available online that are only available because of the way that they are released under the open gaming content, under the Orc, under open gaming license. And that ends up creating new fans and widening the pool that is the player base. So we want everyone to be able to share in that, and creating the Orc license means that no matter what the game is, anyone can kind of take advantage of that and share the game in a way that would grow their communities, would grow their game, and would grow the hobby as a whole.
Yeah, that's terrific. So little golf clap for Paizo. Thank you for that. Now, what's new for Pathfinder 2 at GenCon?
So Pathfinder 2 just released a new rulebook called Rage of Elements, which is focused on the elemental planes in our setting, in the Lost Omen setting. And our elemental planes have been kind of shaken up as of late. You're kind of used to the classical traditional elements, earth, fire, air, and water. But it turns out that in our setting, the elemental plane of wood and the elemental plane of metal are also ones that exist and affect the balance of the elements and stuff like that. And those are inspired by the Asian traditions, the Eastern Asian traditions of a different elemental cycle that I think is, if I remember right, water, air, wood, fire, and metal. Doesn't include the earth. So mixing all of these together leads to interesting stuff. And in terms of what that means for players and GMs, there's a lot of rule options that draw upon the elements. You have ways to create gusts of wind, create blasts of fire, and manipulate the earth to create walls and stuff. And we have a brand new class called the Kineticist that is the master of these elements. Can draw upon air and be, the ultimate master of creating air and fly and stuff like that, or it can mix elements, grab water and earth and make mud and do different things like that. It's all about making use of these elements and using that to add to your game, add flavor to your game. We give you details on the elemental planes. We talk about the plane of fire, what kind of people you'll find there, the kind of challenges you'll find there. And we'll produce a lot of new spells that are related to that, or magic items, new character options. And then, of course, monsters that come from the plane of fire or plane of earth and stuff like that. So it just covers all of these planes and gives you a lot of tools to play with for your games.
Yeah, I could see that easily leading into a whole adventure path based on the elements. Is that something that's coming down the pike?
There's not an adventure path currently in the works that's related to the elements, but the way that these things work is you can kind of plop in, a bit of that elemental spice, a little bit of that elemental flavor to anything. Suddenly an incursion from the plane of waters here, and you got to deal with all of that. We have other adventures that kind of dabble in a little bit of the elemental stuff, but nothing that is going fully focused on traveling the planes quite yet.
Okay, all right. We should, but no.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, is there anything else you think we should?
So Rage of Elements and the Orc license kind of all leads to the ultimate point of where we're heading to in the kind of short-term future with our Pathfinder Remastered. Pathfinder 2nd Edition rules came out a couple years ago. They were released under the Open Game license, and now that we're switching over to the Orc license, we do need to update a couple of things to make sure we're compatible with our Orc license and are kind of getting rid of anything that was OGL reliant. We can't maintain stuff that requires the OGL, so we have to do a little bit of cleaning house, right? And most of that just requires a few changes here or there. For example, our magic missile spell is now called Force Barrage. Mechanically, it works the same way. It's going to automatically hit someone. It's going to deal damage at D4s and stuff like that. a really good go-to spell. Just has a different name, so because Magic Missile is an OGL term that we can't use.
Okay.
A lot of that happens. Some of our monsters get tweaked a little bit. Some of our other stuff gets tweaked a bit. And we're just kind of basically doing a kind of big errata, big update pass on our rules and re-releasing it in November. But rather than have an enormous core rulebook like we had at the start of Pathfinder 2nd Edition, we've decided to split things up so it's easier for new players to get in. There is now a player core book, which just has all the information you want for players, and our GM core book to cover anything for whoever's running your game. You don't have to worry about owning both books or accidentally seeing stuff you don't want to see.
I think that'll save my back.
Yeah,
quite a bit.
absolutely. So that comes out in November, and over the next couple months, we're going to be releasing our updated Monster Core book, which updates our monsters as well, and our Player Core 2, which gets all of our main classes out there for you, so you have them up to date to work with the new rule set. But if you have all this new stuff, Rage of Elements or other books, it still works with these new rule sets. So if you had our original core rulebook and you still want to use Magic Missile, it still works. You can still use it with your wizard or whoever. Yeah. Still use our old monsters. For the most part, I'd say 99% across the board, all the stats and numbers work the exact same way. You just might have to remember that instead of calling it Attack of Opportunity, we call it Reactive Strike now. Not too much.
It's really just legal stuff that you have to do to comply with.
A little bit of cleaning house, like I said. And that means all our 2nd edition material still relatively compatible. You know, like I said, 99% compatible for the most part.
Okay.
And you can still use that. You can use our older adventures and all that stuff and keep playing the game. Or if you've heard about it and you decided, you know, I'd like to jump in, maybe now's the time to keep an eye out for that remastered player core and GM core and see maybe this is my time to jump in and get started with the new material.
Okay, and that's November.
That's in November, yes.
Okay. Well, thanks, Luis. That was awesome. I'm glad we got the chance to talk to you.
Yeah.
And I hope your last day of your con goes super smooth and you sell everything that you have on your shelf too.
I'd love for that to happen. Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I hope you have a good time here too.
Thank you, everybody.